I would do two things. First, I would invest in offices in Gothenburg and just outside the core areas of Stockholm, where I think that we see a discrepancy in yields now towards the absolute prime locations. And to make Allan happy, I would definitely invest in logistics. But I would go for core buildings in core locations, but with short leases, where I think you will see a great return for the coming years.
Because you think that there's going to be, once you've moved those tenants out, there's going to be rental
Yeah,
increase.
and I think that if you look at the occupiers today, in general, they want to have short leases because they are in most cases 3PLs, which means that they want to have short leases and they're willing to pay higher rents for shorter leases. And I think that is where we will see a lot of potential moving forward.
Okay, good, thank you. Alan, it looks as though you got some of Daniel's money as well.
Yeah. That sounds good. Well, I would not spend the 500 millions on logistics because it's not there. But I would spend part of the money on the prime locations. And I would also go for actually restructuring it a bit, doing shorter leases and also segmenting the buildings to allow for say, smaller tenants. If I look at I have 1,800 square meters let out in Gothenburg to a small 3PL, and he pays at least 30% higher rent than the big guys next door, having a 10-year lease. He has a 4-year lease. So I would really buy, but only in prime locations, only where I'm sure that the demand will be steady and increasing. And I also see definitely that there is rental growth. The problem, if you look at logistics contracts, lease contracts today, is that they're often 10-year leases. For the 3PL guys, it's a 10-year lease with a 5-year break option, but it's one-sided. So the tenant can break after 5 years, and the landlord has no real opportunity to increase the rent. The lease has to expire. There is also a rule in Sweden with the besittningsskydd, that is, the tenant has the right to stay in the building even after the lease has expired. And then you need to negotiate the rent, and you have to prove the market rent you want to get out of the tenant to prolong the lease is just. So there is a system. It's not that easy. You cannot cancel a contract with a tenant and say, "Thank you for now. Thanks for the coffee. Now we take in another tenant on this level." You have to somehow give the existing tenant the opportunity to stay, and then you have to prove the rent levels. But we see indeed a rental growth, and that is coming. And I think you have the big players, but they have gone through much of their consolidation phase. You will probably not see these really big boxes coming along. So now it's more the 3,000 to 5,000 square meters units.
Okay, good, thank you. Rikke.
Well, in the name of being Nordic, I would divide the money a little bit, to be honest with you. I would do residential development in the Copenhagen and Aarhus areas, and maybe a little bit in Odense as well in Denmark. I would do high street retail in Copenhagen. There's some very interesting opportunities there. And then I would do value add high street and really high street in Oslo. The rent levels are increasing considerably if you take and you refurbish some of the high street units that are there. There are some really interesting things going on. And the purchasing power of the Norwegians is amazing, and they actually don't have any really high street retail brands up there yet. They only have a few. So there would be a very interesting opportunity to do that. Then I would probably actually go a little different way and do some value add. I would try and go into Sweden and buy up some of the more run-down local shopping centers that you have in the sort of what Citycon is doing, but that you have in the top from 5 to 15 cities. Buy some of those shopping centers and really work with them, because they are very important to those smaller cities. And then I would go for, I would wait a little bit, and then I would go into Finland and do some residential there in Finland as well.
Great, thank you. Thomas?
Yes, some of this sounds quite interesting. I would probably go quite a lot, though, to value add in the Stockholm area. A- locations, B locations. tries to add some value. I would also be interested in going to the Copenhagen market, because I think really that is something that can turn around, just as you explained earlier. That is probably one of the markets that can really bounce back, because it has suffered more than any other city in the northern part, and it's going to bounce back.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panel, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.